hello everybody. I hope you did not have a lunch too big, because I will go with some big mathematical equation. Not yet, in half an hour. I will try to make a class that is very practical. The goal of the class is to train you to use the Pinocchio modeling software. That is one of the kernel software in LAS that I believe is quite accomplished software that is ready to be transferred. And well, basically, if you don't have it, you have to record something very similar to that. So we have 5 years. We are 5 years in advance. We started 5 years ago, so maybe you can start with what we did, and then maybe we can conjugate forces and bring a lot of stuff in this package. This Pinocchio software is also the basic tool that will be below the TSID class for tomorrow of Andrea. So for the TSID class, you really need to understand what is Pinocchio and how Pinocchio is usable. And it is also the basic modeling tools in the planner that Steve will present, I think, on Wednesday. In the planner, it's more, it's deeper inside the planner, so if you don't really understand Pinocchio, it's not so important for the planner, but well, it is well inside. And then it's also the basic tool that you need for computing a lot of stuff, in particular derivatives, in the optimal control software that we will present. I don't remember, on tomorrow afternoon? I don't know. Well, later in the week. So, yeah, hopefully we will be able to train you with that. So, the class will be with Jupyter notebook. So I have all exercise and piece of code in the Jupyter notebook. You need Pinocchio compiled from source for that. So there is various ways of installing it. One way is to get the VirtualBox that I prepared for the class. I have one version of the VirtualBox that is online and one that is on the key. So maybe we can well, I know, circulate the key here and work from download at the same time. Everything is on my GitHub repo. That's me, some time ago. You go in the repository, and that's the last repository that I uploaded. You can just get it, and at the bottom you have a README. In the README you have the address of the virtual image. So you need VirtualBox for that. I guess it should work also in VMware, but I'm not sure. Alternatively, if you already have a Ubuntu 16 or 18 setup, I think you should be able to have everything for cheap. You just need to install Jupyter, to recompile Pinocchio from the last version, and to install the Talos model. I will use Talos arm and Talos legs for the examples. Well, for I don't know, Van der Graaf Fanatics, for example, if you want to adapt the scripts for the Atalant model, I think it should be possible. But maybe not during the class. Okay, so who wants the key and who wants to start from the web? Johan, a key on the web. So again, it's on my GitHub, Elmansar, and that's my latest repo, WS Memo Pinocchio. You should have everything there. And I think you should set up things while I'm start presenting high-level aspect of Pinocchio, because you don't need a full brain for listening to me on this part. While we would need everything set up. So start downloading, start installing VirtualBox while we are speaking. And if you are encountering problems, there is skilled people in the room, like I guess Mathieu could help, Carlos could help, Antonio Elcuri could help. So just raise a hand and somebody will try to help you. Okay. Well, I have also a second key, so once we have one seed somewhere, we can spread exponentially. Okay, so let's go for the high-level presentation of Pinocchio. So first, Pinocchio is not my work. I was the first developer and the lead developer for some time, but now the lead has been taken by Justin Carpentier. So Justin Carpentier is really the tech guru of the repository. It means that he is the one answering to your issues if you open an issue on the GitHub. He is also the one that will censor your commit if you try to pull it to merge something in the repo. He will be the one that will look at it and decide. He is also the one that will push on the repo without harming anybody else, but that's a privilege of a guru. And we did not invent much in Pinocchio. Maybe part of the implementation, the way we use C++ to make it as efficient as possible, that's geek work, and it's nice geek work. But mostly everything is coming from Roy Featherstone. And if you have questions about the theory inside Pinocchio, I think the first thing to do is to go in a Featherstone book. And if you like Pinocchio and you're happy with that, maybe you can buy the book of Roy Featherstone or send him a thank you note. I think Pinocchio has a lot of very nice code that is very ready to use. It lacks a little bit of materials and support materials. So there is a bunch of info you can get from the web. Well, first there is a website on github.io, so there is a github.com for the repo, and the github.io where you have high-level presentation, documentation, tutorials, kind of stuff, so you can start from there. There is a Doxygen. Well, it's uploaded on the github.io. You can recompile on your computer locally. And there is also a bunch of tutorials. Well, basically that's the tutorial that I'm using for giving the class. So, for example, this tutorial we will put it later on the website. And you have the other tutorials of my master class. Well, the problem is that very often you have the version of past year and Pinocchio evolve a little bit. So yeah, it's an academic software. I think it's a good one, but not perfect. Also, another source of material is to use the helper of Python. Maybe I found it the most convenient way to find information. So for example, during the tuto, you just open a Python shell and you type the name of the function with a question mark at the end, and you will get the Doxygen from there. That's a collaborative project. Everything is open source. It's licensed under BSD license, which is convenient for working with Industrial because it's not asking much from the Industrial. Which means that we can welcome contribution to the repo. Just ask us before starting contributing, because if we have already a thread in parallel, it's not working well. In particular, currently we are looking for Doc developers. So maybe if there is something that I managed to explain you here that you did not understand before, and you say, wow, that's a very nice explanation, maybe one way of saying thank you is to write that with a LaTeX format, and just send us the LaTeX code, and we will put that in the documentation. It will be very nice. And in particular, I think one way I'm pushing the team to produce documentation is to provide the examples. So many of the tutorials here provide literally examples that we could put in the doc to help future developers. So, yeah. Look in the doc, you will find a list of empty examples, and don't hesitate to bring us either Python code or C++ code, or both if you are really a gentleman. Pinocchio is a C++ library, so that's also for high-level facts. So it's C++ because we want to have something that is really fast. So we did a very careful implementation. For that we used a design pattern that is called the Curiously Recursive Template Design, that I think would need 4 hours of class to go in detail. Basically, you can understand it as it's the same template, it's the same design pattern that is used in the Eigen library. So it's not very nice to write. It's okay to use, I think. So a little bit like Eigen. It's very complex the way it is written, but if you want to use it, you don't care so much. I really don't think you want to develop code inside the kernel of Pinocchio. Also, maybe for challenge, it's nice to go and contribute. Then, in addition to the C++ library, we have a design pattern where we map everything to the Python API, so that for newcomers and for prototyping, well, you can have access to the library without doing this heavy, strongly typed programmation style. I really encourage you to develop in Python, never in C++, at least in the first time. Do Python, and for Pinocchio you have access to everything in Python. If there is something missing, maybe there is 1% of the API that is missing in Python, and some minor changes, well, ask us, we will add it or put it yourself. And only once you are done with the Python implementation, and only if it is necessary, then go to C++. But when you are very sure that you have the final formulation. And not only for using Pinocchio, whatever you are doing, always do that in Python first, or MATLAB first. Bindings are okay in terms of speed. You are not losing so much in terms of efficiency. There is a little bit of copy. Beware that the bindings are lacking of numerical accuracy. So the copy from C++ double float to Python double float are somehow wrong, and we are losing a little bit, which is not a big problem in a normal usage. But when you want to do, for example, a finite differencing or optimization, it's bad. Not so bad, but it can play a little bit. Now, what is Pinocchio? Pinocchio is a modeling library, so it's not an application and it's not a solver. Yet there is some key feature directly available for roboticist user. I will list them after that. But in general, you cannot expect anything from Pinocchio. It's just a modeling library. If you want to do something like generating movement, plan, control, estimation, anything, well, you can build a top Pinocchio, but don't expect Pinocchio to provide the application by itself. So during the next class, the SID, the solver, the planner, the DDP solver, that will be application, so final features. Here it's just the core feature, the model. And we don't want to have solvers inside Pinocchio. The same way a little bit that Eigen, you don't want a numerical solver inside Eigen. Eigen is very close to be a numerical solver, but it is not. So if you want a solver, for example, for doing inverse dynamics, then there is a TSID package. You will have the class of Andrea. If you want to do contact planning or planning in general, then you have the HPP, the software stack, where there is a lot of stuff implemented here. If you want to do optimal control, well, we are starting to release the Crocodile DDP solver. And you can also build a top of Pinocchio, optimal estimation, reinforcement learning, inverse kinematic, contact simulation. So all that should come, there are applications built with Pinocchio. So here is a list of the features that you have in Pinocchio and that I will teach you to use today. You have the parser to build the model from somewhere. Then we have forward kinematics, computing the velocity of the system, the acceleration of the system, the position of the system, all the Jacobians, the mass, the center of mass, the generalized inertia matrix. We have forward and inverse dynamics, so the RNE algorithm and the AP algorithm. We can display the model with a package called Gepetto Viewer, which is coming in addition to Pinocchio, but is really built to be used with Pinocchio. We also have collision detection and distances between collision pairs with a package that is called HPP-FCL, which is a fork of the fast collision library. It's a fork that is compatible, right? I had a question by Edinburgh this morning. We changed all the namings in HPP-FCL so that you can have both at the same time. No conflict. We have the derivative of kinematics and dynamics. I think that's one of the features currently that is pretty unique in Pinocchio. There is not many libraries that are providing the derivatives, and we are. There is also type templatization and code generation, so that's a very recent feature that I will not teach today. That apparently I never tried. That's a work of Justin Carpentier that I never tried. So here are some details about applications that are built on top of Pinocchio. So TSID is a task-based inverse dynamics that you can use to control the robot, in particular to torque control the robot. In TSID, Pinocchio is used for computing the inertia matrix, the Jacobian, the kinematics, and then on top of that, TSID is implementing the formulation of the task and all the constraints, also the contact models, and then it is implementing the connection with the QP solver that will solve the task and under the contact model constraint. Pinocchio is used inside the HPP planner. Inside that, Pinocchio is used for everything related to geometry and collisions through the HPP FCL. It's also used for the projector with inverse kinematics. So when you are randomly sampling one configuration of the system and you want to project the foot on the ground, that's Pinocchio that is used for that. It's also used to model the balance constraints when you are doing contact planning. And inside HPP Planner, Pinocchio is encapsulated in another software package called HPP Pinocchio, hence the small need of Pinocchio or Pinocchio understanding for that. And on top of that, HPP is building stochastic exploration algorithm like RRT, contact checking, rearrangement algorithms. And finally, Crocodile is another package that we are opening this month, where Pinocchio is used for kinematics and dynamics, obviously, and computing the derivative of that, since we want to optimize them, and the display inside JPEG Viewer. And on top of that, Crocodile is implementing a DDP solver and the task and cause formulation. So that's the overview of why Pinocchio, maybe why you want to consider using it, and what I will teach you today. So now let's enter in the detail of a little bit of mathematics about how to use Pinocchio. So I think something a little bit abstract that maybe at the beginning does not seem to be very important is the notion of representation. Pinocchio is a modeling library. So we are modeling a physical system. So we are modeling something that is happening in the world. This something in the world, it's pure geometry, right? Like for example, we have a point, and we are manipulating where this point is, what is the velocity of this point, how it's moving in the space, all that. A point is a pure geometry, so that's not numbers. And since it's pure geometry, you cannot manipulate that with a computer. A computer needs numbers. You need to represent the world with numbers. So we will represent this point by this representation. So you can see there is many more details in this figure than in this one. So to put the point inside the computer, we have to bring a lot of data. And in particular, we have to bring a frame. We call A generally the absolute frame. And then AP is a representation of P in the frame A, and that's three numbers. And when I'm giving you these three numbers, you cannot understand them otherwise that knowing the convention that I'm using for representing it. And that is something you should really keep in mind. Inside Pinocchio, inside the computer, you only have a representation of something that is true, that is physics. And your representation is not true, it's just a map, and this map will certainly have defect. So Pinocchio is a model, and of course we know that models are wrong. So in particular, Pinocchio is made for a rigid polyarticulated system, and we clearly know that our robot is not rigid. So if you look at Talos, which is this giant machine of 100 kilograms climbing the stairs, it's very clear that, that Talos is full of flexibility. And that's even worse if you have to play with the Atalant exoskeleton in Vandercraft. So that's not what I mean by model are wrong. What I mean here is the way you represent your model. So you consider a geometry that is maybe perfect and not correspond to reality. But I'm not discussing that. The way you represent geometry matters. So for example, and that's one of the critical example inside something that is manipulating rigid objects, is you have SO3 elements. So you want to represent how an object is oriented in space. So maybe the most exact representation of this rotation is little r, which is a map that is displacing one point to another point. So it will displace all my points of my hands to points of my hands when it has moved. This is not numbers, that's a geometry. Now you want to represent R, and maybe you want to represent R with an orthogonal positive matrix. Okay, so 9 numbers with 6 constraints that R transpose R should be identity. Okay? So that's one representation. Alternatively, you can represent it with the angular velocity that you need to integrate during time 1 to get this R matrix. So we call that the canonical representation. That's minimal, it's a vector of dimension 3. Okay, that's nice. Well, one or the other. Or maybe you want a quaternion. So quaternion is a little bit like the angular velocity, except you put an additional numbers to get rid of the fact that when you make two turns of rotation, you change omega while you are not changing the rotation at the end. So Q is invariant to that, but then it has an additional parameter, so it's dimension 4. And in fact, Q is a quaternion, so it's another geometrical object that you will represent by vector. So it's a representation by a representation that you represent. So all that is, maybe it seems trivial because at the end, you will code that, you are a computer scientist, but it's very, very important in the way you are doing maths and in the way you are talking to the solver. Well, at the end, you have the very bad choice of representing your rotation by roll PTO or any Euler angles. And there is many reasons why it's very bad, and in particular when you are putting that in the solver, because there is some singularities, and the solver will get lost because of the singularity. Okay? So, I won't go in details of why we are representing that way or this way, but there is a lot of choice, and choice that are impacting a lot the algorithm that you are using at the end. So don't believe that Pinocchio is doing a modeling through some vector, and now you have vectors and you can put that in the solver and it will work. The way you are changing the representation is changing a lot the way the solver can work and the performance of the solver. Okay, that was the introduction. Now we can go to the code. Any questions so far? So I have questions. Who was able to download the VirtualBox?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh.
Can we get the Talos data package?
From Robot PKG dash Talos dash data. And Carlos, can you look at Wolf's computer? You know how to solve that, right, Carlos? Carlos?
Is Jupyter supposed to run on Python 3 or
Python 2. Python 2. So Pinocchio is likely to work on Python 3. There may be some bad print, print on Python 3 now it's with parentheses, and it's likely that you still get some Python 2 or simple conversion like that. JPTOViewer is bad with Python 3 currently. Andrea did a pull request, and I think it's solved, but I'm not 100% sure. And we have no packaging for Python 3 yet. So, and since we are validating and unit testing everything through packaging, well, we are not good with Python 3 because we are not testing. So we are very close, but for the class, use Python 2, and if we want to use Python 3 later, well, let's discuss. Johan, did you manage to install the VirtualBox? It's still
yes, the VirtualBox, yes.
And it's
I had to update my VirtualBox to a newer version and deselect the USB port. This is a Mac. So, yeah.
So you are started. You can start with the code, right?
I
guess. Other people, did it start to spread a little bit, or did you download from the web?
I could start it, but I don't have the Talos yet. It's not on the repo of if you just add this slide,
So, is it on the VirtualBox? Or no, not on the VirtualBox, on your computer. So, if you just apt-get the Robot PKG data, Talos data, which is in the same apt server as Pinocchio, so if you already installed Pinocchio, you should just apt that and that should go.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's the problem with your having we've done that. It doesn't work. It doesn't install it.
Okay.
We can't find the apt-get even though we have the PPA for open robots, we can't find it.
Did you have apt update?
I tried.
It's
No, we also 1804, right?
I'm 1804. Yeah.
So we have the same issue. It's not available.
On 1804. Ah, okay. I tested on 1604, not on 1804.
You can download, if you go to the server, you can just download the file and extract it. But it's a bit, mine's 16. Mine's even 16.
Okay. So 1804, let's say it's not working. 1604, it should work. Carlos, could you look on the 1604 just there?
Yeah, so that's available on the 18th.
Who has the
Who has the USB key? Somebody has the USB key with the little box.
Yeah, I think it's back
You guys back there.
You are checking that Carlos is on
Did you initially get this when you tried to install the VirtualBox?
Could you put the OVA on that to spread it quicker?
The virtual box?
Yeah,
Yes.
but maybe
I can.
I'm coming.
Just because I see that there are very few Macs in this room. I bet you have got one.
so I confirm we don't have 1804 for Talos. So if you're on 1804,
This is what I did.
either you switch to the VirtualBox or you switch to another robot. That's only solution I can.
So once we are in the VirtualBox, what do we do? Once we fire up the Ubuntu?
Yes.
Then,
So you have the instruction there. So Jupyter is already installed. So you have two Jupyter notebooks somewhere. Where is it?
like, just wondering which directory should I go to?
It's called the same name as the repo. So WS Mimo Pinocchio. And there you Jupyter notebook, and you have the notebooks that are.
I see.
So Nicolas,
But is this
Yep.
I just posted a workaround for those that can't get the thing on the and then you can get the panels on
So-
1804.
On 1804, you
Oh, you can just download the tar file, and if you extract it into the right folder, all of the examples.
okay. So you did that, and you are posting that as an issue on the robot. That's
It's already
okay.
I can only read from this key, Nico. I cannot write it.
So here, Wolf just put an issue where you have the tar file of the Talos. So on 1804, it's solving the problem. So we'll continue a little bit, and you keep going on with the installation. So I explained the basics, and basically then I will let you play with the VirtualBox. So basics are how we do with URDFNS, what is the kinematic tree in Pinocchio, how we do forward kinematics, how we display something, and some basics about spatial algebra, which will be, I think, the most boring part of the class, but well, still useful. So inside Pinocchio, we are storing a kinematic tree. So a kinematic tree, the example that I will take will always be my body. My body is composed of joints, so which are, for example, my elbow, my wrist, and the first joint of everything, which is the placement of my hip with respect to the world. So I need to know where my hip is in translation and in rotation. I have 6 degrees of freedom with my hip, and then I have something like 6 degrees of freedom on each of my limbs, maybe 2 on my torso and 2 on my neck. So then I have a tree. The root of the tree is going from the universe to my hip. Then I have one branch of the tree for my right leg, one branch for my left leg, and then the tree grows for my torso. Then a branch for my left arm, a branch for my right arm, and a branch for my so in Pinocchio we are storing exactly the way I said. So we have one joint, then another joint, then another joint. So joints is an array of joint types and indices, saying that this joint is a revolute, this one is another revolute, this one is a free flyer. Names is the name of joints, and each joint, like for example my elbow, is placed with respect to its parent joint. So my elbow is something like, I don't know, half a meter from my shoulder, and half a meter in this direction, and there is a change of orientation in the meantime. And then my wrist is placed at half a meter from my elbow. So that's all that are the placements. So these placements are constant. My wrist is always placed at the same position with respect to my elbow. My elbow is always placed in the same position with respect to my shoulder. What will be variant in the kinematic tree is the displacement map inside the joint itself. And then this kinematic hierarchy, the fact that my neck is after my torso after my hip, is stored by a parent map. So each joint index I gets its parent index parent.I. In this kinematic tree, we are not storing bodies. That's a very common way of seeing the kinematic tree. Saying I have a joint for my shoulder, then I have a body for my upper arm, then a joint for my elbow, then a body for my lower arm, etc. We are not doing that. We are saying my elbow is attached to my shoulder to my torso. So we are only storing a joint, a tree of joints.
One thing.
Yeah.
So it seems that each child knows its parent, but the parents know the child.
There is a child of stored somewhere, but it's unadvised to use it for performance reasons. You should always go from leaf to the root. That's the way that is fast. So if you want to go from the waist to the hand, you have to try the fast, and you are wasting time in that. Well, if you go from the hand to the root, it's direct. You go parent until zero. Okay. So inside the algorithm, we are most of the time using the parent joint and very little the child of map. The child of map is just there for convenience, not to be used.
And then this plural thing, it confuses me. There is one parent, or it could be that you have
parents is a map of parents. So here we have a sequence of parents. Then since it's a sequence, we put a S. That's all the joints, that's all the names, that's all the placements, and that's all the parents that are stored in a list.
Okay.
So we don't have bodies, and elements that are classically attached to bodies, like the mass, the inertia, maybe the name of the body, maybe a geom, so a mesh that is representing the body, all that is attached as decoration in the kinematic tree. Okay? So it's not a specificity of Pinocchio, but it's not the most classical way of doing stuff. And in particular, in the URDF model, it's not the way it is done. URDF model are chaining bodies and joints and bodies and joints. So they have what we call a colored tree. You can have a node of type joint or a node of type joint. Another subtlety is that what we are storing in the joint and all that is, in fact, what we want to compute is the placement of this, the output of the joint with respect to the world. And the world, we name it the universe, and it will be stored in the very first part of the list. Which means that if you have 7 joints, like for example the Talos arm will have 7 joints, then the list of joints and a list of names and list of all that will be 8, because at the index 0 you will always have the universe. So if we want, in fact, there is somehow this body joint representation, and then we have to decide if the joint, well, if on 8 you store the displacement from one to the other, or well, that's the way it is done. And well, maybe it's confusing in the first use, or at least this fact that you have more joins than number of freedom is maybe strange. So the very first computation we want to do with this model is to compute the kinematics. When it's first order, so when it's all about position placement, so no velocity, I will rather speak of geometry. So geometry will be the zero order kinematics. Then when I speak of kinematics, it's always movement, so velocity or acceleration. So what we want to have is a generalization of that. Right? So this is the geometry of a 2-air robot. So it's likely the most simple robot you can imagine. It has two rotations, it's a double pendulum. And what we want to have is what is the position of the end effector of the robot. And what we would do, if you want to derivate all the equation for that, is just write that it is the cosinus of the first angle plus the cosinus of the two angles together, with the length here and the length there. So you can always do the same. If you have a 6-order pendulum, you can still do that manually, and that's clearly the most efficient way of doing it. The problem is that when you have any kinematic tree that can come, writing all this equation is very boring and it's very difficult. So the way we typically do, and that's done in all modeling libraries, is to compute the final displacement. So we want to have the placement of this frame with respect to this frame. We want to know what is the translation to go from here to there, and what is the change of orientation between here, this and there. So for that, we will store the displacement between every frame. So displacement between this frame and this frame here, displacement between this frame and this frame, etc. And we will just sum all this displacement to get the final total displacement in the system. We'll go more in detail later. Let's do that. So continuing with the very basic stuff, so inside you have models and then you will have numbers. So and you will have a lot of numbers because for each joint in the chain, you will have 9 numbers for the rotation, 3 numbers for the translation. And understanding these numbers is not easy, so if you want to understand what your solver is doing or what your modeling algorithm is doing, it's much better to have a 3D representation. It's very, very useful to get the nice graphical representation when you are debugging algorithm. So for that we are providing a very light 3D viewer. It's not made to be a concurrent to, I don't know, for example, the raw viewer or anything. It's just a very, very simple 3D viewer that is started at the server, and you can communicate between Pinocchio and any other viewer that you want to use is very fine. This one is very little so that we can share it and distribute it with other people. So Gepetto Viewer will create a display server, means it started as an independent application. And once, if you close your Python terminal with Python inside, you won't close the server, it's still there. And each time you are starting a Python terminal, you will typically create a client to communicate with this server. And in this server, you can create new 3D objects, like simple geometrical primitive, or load some meshes. The viewer is simply a rigid object viewer, so it has no idea of the kinematic chain. In the beginning, it will take all the body of the robot and you will stack it in the middle of the scene. You have to say, to use Pinocchio to tell to each body where it should be to represent properly your robot. Okay? So Pinocchio knows the kinematic chain, or kinematic tree, not Gepetto Viewer, and so Pinocchio should do all the forward kinematics computation and send that to the viewer. For that, we have the Python entity that is used for beginners that is doing that for you. So Robot Wrapper will create all the objects in Gepetto Viewer, and when you want to display one configuration, it will explain everything to Robot Viewer so that your robot appears nice. This is only done in Python, so that's the only part of the library where we have more code in Python than in C++. So if you want to display with C++, you have to redo that. So yeah, now I have to go in a little bit of math. But before that, maybe we can just make a quick check. So I think you have some people that have the application ready. Maybe can you raise your hand if you have the VirtualBox or anything started and the JPEG Viewer started and the Jupyter started, right?
I have a password in the Ubuntu. So I don't know if I put user or password. Yeah.
So the root password of is I am a robot. One word, no space.
Okay.
Weak password. Linux was complaining. So who is not able to start it and would like to have some help? Raise your hand.
I have Ubuntu. This is all I have. It's okay.
Okay, that's a start. Let's try to do more.
Okay.
So in one terminal you are too small. In one terminal you start Jupyter Notebook. So Notebook is one very nice feature of Python to have in a browser interface some Python source code that you can execute and some commands, in particular LaTeX commands. So it gives you the kind of a book, but instead of having examples and figures, you have a piece of code that you can execute. So that's the way we will implement. And for that you need to start the Jupyter server. So in the terminal you just type Jupyter Notebook. This should open a browser. And with this browser you go in the memo file.
Workspace memo. This one.
WS memo
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, yeah.
Anyone needs the USB?
And you open the first notebook. Okay, and in another terminal you start the JPEG Viewer application. It's called JPEG. And this should open a new window where you have the JPEG logo inside, and yet you don't have any 3D rendering. Later we will open a 3D rendering. So once you have it, you can start reading and executing code. For now, it's not really exercise, it's just more accurate description of how the code is working and coming back to what I did here. So maybe I let you 5 minutes reading and starting stuff, and you should arrive to a point where you are able to load the model and display the model. B into the point in the frame A. So if I have a schema like that, I have a frame A here, a frame B there, and I have an object. I want to know how each point, when the object is moving, I want to know about how each point is moving. When my object is moving from A to B, I want to know where this point P is moving from A to B. And M is finally this geometrical object. So So when we say M a placement, we talk about rotation and translation, but I think it's better to remember M as this flow of points. So each point in A is mapped to a point in B. That's exactly what is a displacement. So it's a function that transforms a field of points into another field of points. And we are lucky enough that we have rigid objects. So this flow of displacement, you can see that as a river that is moving, and you want to know how each drop in the water is moving along time. That's exactly what it is doing, except that this flow is rigid. And since it is rigid, inside the A map, the M map, we will have a rotation matrix and a translation vector. So ST3 object can be represented as this pair of rotation and translation, and that's how we store them in Pinocchio. And why these notations? It's because if we have a point noted in the frame B, and we want to know how it moves in the frame A, then we will have AMB times BP is equal to AP. So this is, suppose that B is a body object, and A is a body frame, and A is the absolute frame. Then we know where is each point in the object. For example, if you have my hand as a rigid object, you know where is the position what is the position of the tip of my hand in the frame of my hand. And now when my hand is moving, you want to know where is the tip of my hand in the absolute frame. So that's what the map is doing. It's moving point from a body frame to an absolute frame, and this notation here. This notation is, I think, very important, because notation should be easy to manipulate and should be auto-correcting. So if you are not manipulating the stuff properly, well, if here, for example, you have a point in C, clearly multiplying by this notation, you can see that B is not multiplying C object, so it's not possible to get a mistake with that. An alternative notation would be M8B like that, which is also error prone, which is also error safe. That's the two notations that I know for displacement that are good. The other ones are not good. So use one of these two. I use the first one. So typically, what we will have is a map that is moving along time. So something that is smooth. For each time, we know where is the body with respect to the initial position, the absolute position A. And what we want to know is, while the object is moving smoothly like that, we would like to characterize not only the position of all the points in the object, but also the position of the velocity of all the points in the object. So for that, since this is transforming a point in frame B in a point in frame A, we want to differentiate this to get the velocities, right? If you have something like that, so the point in A is only moving because of the displacement of the frame. Inside the body, the point is fixed, but then the frame is moving. Then the velocity in the absolute frame of P will be just due to the derivative of M. So we need to differentiate M. So we have a matrix. Each coefficient in the matrix is a scalar. Each scalar is moving continuously, so we can get the derivative of that, and we can write M dot. Right? So M dot is not very meaningful. It just means every coefficient there, you differentiate it. And we would like to get a structure from that. So the structure that we get, and I don't go in details, is that M dot is equal to nu cross M, where nu is a 6D vector, which we typically write as V omega, each of them being a 3D vector. And we have a relation, so nu is a structure that gets out of the derivation of M. When you differentiate M, you get a nu, and you can exploit nu and say, well, this is a 6D vector, and this 6D vector represents the way that M is moving. And we can show that V has very nice properties, and in particular, that inside this new vector, v would correspond more or less to the vector field of velocity of the body. So it will tell us what is the velocity of each body of the system. Now when you do that, there is two ways of doing the derivation. Either you can differentiate A and B, and you get something like that. And since you have A coordinate here and A coordinate here, it means that nu is the A coordinate. So I don't know what it means now, but it cannot be otherwise. Otherwise the notation are not consistent. But in fact, the nearly same equation can be shaped to obtain something like A and B dot is equal to A and B nu cross for another nu cross. And this nu cross here, since there is B there and B here, it has to be a B coefficient. So which means that from this differentiation of n matrix, we can get either a velocity in the frame A or in a velocity in the frame B. So what does it mean? Because velocity of the frame B in the frame B may be strange. Well, in fact, we take at every time step, we take a picture and we see the A and B frame as not moving. And we look, we use the coordinate of B to represent how the points are moving inside B. This is exactly the same as saying I am in the plane, I am the pilot of the plane, and I want to know what is the velocity of the plane, but in my own coordinate system. Not in the coordinate system of the control tower, right? That's not working. So when I'm using the coordinate system of the plane, I'm not saying that I'm not moving. I want to know how my plane is moving in my own coordinate system. So that's the same that we are doing here. And there is something strange, and that's the reason why I'm explaining all that, is that when we interpret the new A and new B, it will correspond to so that's the velocity of this object that we have here. The linear part of this new B vector will correspond exactly to the velocity of the center of the frame expressed in the frame. Okay, so that's the linear part of it. But the linear part of the A vector will correspond to the linear velocity not of the center of the B frame, but of the center of the A frame, which is a very strange concept. Right? It's like saying I will represent the velocity of the plane in the frame of the control tower, why not? But for representing the linear velocity, I will not take the plane, the center of the plane, but the point of the control tower as if it was attached to the plane. Right? So that's what the mathematics are doing, and that's not my fault. It's very strange, but that's just the math. I'm taking M, I'm differentiating M, and I get nu. And I don't have the choice. It's a canonical choice. So in summary, in Pinocchio and in many applications like Pinocchio, you will have the choice between a representation like that or a representation like that. So either the velocity in the absolute frame, where the angular part is denoted in the absolute frame, and that's fine, but the linear part is represented in the angular frame at the center of the absolute frame. Or you can represent that in the body frame, but then in that case everything is oriented in the body frame. That's the two choice that you have. And I think that clearly when we are trained to mechanics, what we rather do is something like the velocity of the body in the frame, absolute frame. So something like that. Right? This choice is said, it's more intuitive. Velocity of the center of the object, but in the absolute frame, velocity, angular velocity in the absolute frame. This choice is not feasible in Pinocchio. So is it worth spending all that time to explain you something that is a little bit magical? Yes. Because when you take a Jacobian, the Jacobian is just a stack of all these quantities here. which means that the velocity that you get out of a Jacobian, we will come to that later, would be either this convention or this convention. You don't have the choice. In Pinocchio, you don't have the choice. And when you want to manipulate this Jacobian, you really have to understand what you are doing here. Otherwise, you are lost. Now you are lost, but we will come back to that in a...
But what's VAA? For me, there is 0.
So VAA is the velocity of the center of the control tower seen as the point of the plane, right? So imagine the plane has a very long wing, and this very long wing is touching the center of the control tower. And you want to know what is the velocity of this point of the wing. Okay?
No, not okay. Then why is it called AA?
Okay, so that's my notation, and maybe they are not good. So here it's called A because this 3D vector here is represented in the coordinate system of A. And I'm putting A here because that's the velocity of point A. Okay, so I have two frames.
It's the velocity of the moving body at point A expressed
that's
in reference A. Okay,
exactly.
I think
Yeah, you need to have all this representation. Well, maybe on that, what we have to keep in mind is that all that at the end, all that is just a velocity vector flow. So what we have is something like that. We have two bodies, and we have a flow of vectors.
You used the word control tour.
Yes.
What is that?
So that's a plain example that I'm taking. So because I think it's easy to imagine that you are an observer either in the plane or in the control tower that is observing one moving body, which is the plane. And you would like to know, so let's go in detail with this example. So I take the time to make a nice drawing. So you have an absolute frame, and you have a body frame. So the absolute frame would be typically the control tower, just for the example.
What is that? Tower.
Tower.
Tower. Okay.
The place where the sky controllers
I see,
are standing and are looking at the
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
So sorry for the
sorry.
French accent. And you are looking for this body that is moving. And you want to know what is the velocity of each point of the body. So, like for the M, we have to remember that what is interesting to us is this flow of vector, right? We want to know for every single point of the body what is the velocity of the body. So we want to manipulate this vector flow. And this vector flow, it is physically meaningful on the body. But in fact, mathematically, it exists everywhere in space, right? You can prolong, you can extend the velocity flow everywhere in space. And that would be just the same flow. So this flow, in particular, it has a value at the center of frame A. Okay? Physically, it has no sense. If we want to interpret that, you have the plane, it has a very long wing, and the very long wing is crossing the control tower. And you want to know what is the velocity of this point attached to the plane. Very likely this velocity will be huge because the plane is very far away and it's rotating. So with the lever arm you will get a very big velocity. But mathematically it is not relevant, it is big or not. So the statement here is to say this vector flow can be represented by 6 numbers. 3 numbers are the angular velocity, and 3 other numbers are the value of one point of the vector flow. And it can be whatever the point you want. So in fact, you have 3 choices for all these values. You have to select what is the frame where you represent omega, what is the frame where you represent v, and in which point you express the vector flow. Okay? That's 3 choices that you have to make. Mathematically, you have to do the 3 choices the same. So either B, 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 or A, A, A. Now, if you want to be fancy, you can put any 3 choices that you want here, but you see the notation are quite heavy already when you put B everywhere. So if you put the different convention everywhere, it has no sense. Okay? Now okay, John?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I came into this some time ago and I forgot. No, it's the same thing.
Let's continue. Now we have accelerations. So acceleration, we will just say we have a vector. It's a 6D vector. I call it nu, so that's the spatial acceleration. It varies in time smoothly, and I will just differentiate it, and that's it. And that, I will call it my acceleration. And it's fine. It's the way my system varies twice in time. So maybe we can say here, well, it's easy. So velocity are hard, but acceleration are easy. So I think it's true, except that we are used to interpret the content of the spatial velocity. We say the three first numbers, they are the values of the vector flow. So what is inside the acceleration? Because it's not the acceleration, the linear acceleration inside. So to understand that, there is this nice example, I think, of a circular movement. So say you are looking for the Earth and the Moon, and the moon, we will consider it's making a perfect circular movement around the Earth. Okay. So what is the flow of velocity of the moon? So at every point where the moon can be, I trace a vector. Okay. So that's the velocity vector flow of the moon. Well, I can extend the vector flow if I want, but and this is constant in time. Whatever the point where the moon is, the velocity vector flow is always like that. It will never change. Okay? Which means that nu has to be constant. It is denoting the flow, and so if I represent nu, so the notation that I am using, which is a little bit heavy, is a representation of how the moon is moving with respect to the Earth, expressed, for example, in the Earth. So if I look at how the point center of the Earth is moving if it was attached to the moon, what is its linear velocity? It's not moving, right? So it's 0. And what is its angular velocity? Well, it's making a perfect rotation, so something like 0, 0, 1. Okay? So that would be the representation of the flow of velocity. And it's constant, you see? So now if I take the acceleration, what is the acceleration of Earth, of moon with respect to Earth? 0. You differentiate one, and it's getting you 0. Okay? So, and that's, it's saying again, the flow is not changing, hence the acceleration, the velocity of the flow should not change. Should be 0. It's just saying us that it's not moving at all. Now clearly, the moon has a linear acceleration. Because otherwise it would make a linear movement. Okay? So, which means that we cannot interpret, and there is no way of interpreting this as the flow of acceleration. So it's not the vectors. You cannot take that and take vectors. In fact, why we have a linear acceleration, it's not because the flow is changing, it's because the moon is changing position inside the flow. Right? So between this point and this point, what has changed is not the flow, it's the fact that we are not at the same point of the flow. So the linear acceleration will be a combination of the change of acceleration, the change of the flow, and the change of position of the flow. So there is an operation that you can do to get the linear acceleration. Okay. Yeah.
I just have to ask, on the top left index is both the frame that you represent the vectors in, and also the point through which you measure the flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it must, no, it doesn't have to be stationary.
No. But what you do is that when you take a picture to observe the system, you always consider that all the frames are stationary.
Okay. So instantaneously stationary.
Yeah, and then it will teleport to the next picture you are taking.
But you still consider alpha, you call it acceleration?
I call it spatial acceleration, yeah.
Okay.
And the linear quantity there is not the linear acceleration. So there is a match between the linear part of the velocity and the linear velocity, and no match between the linear part of the acceleration and the linear acceleration. And I think it's good when you say, this is the flow, this is the change in the flow, I don't care what is inside. It's just a representation, I don't want to know what is inside.
So the spatial acceleration is a measure of the variation of the velocity flow.
Yes, exactly.
And we have linear acceleration because there are, if we differentiate what you said before, could you repeat it?
So when we will, so the linear acceleration will be the change in the linear velocity of the system. So when I have the moon here, at time, don't put it right. I have the moon here that will move there next. So that's, say it's t equals 0 and that's t equals 1. The acceleration between 0 and 1 is the change of linear velocity. And here the linear velocity change, not because the flow change, but because the position change. Hence we compute the flow at a different position.
Okay.
So if I take the vector at the second point and I make it coincident with the previous point, the two vectors are different, I compute the difference and divide by the time, that would be the acceleration.
Yes.
Linear acceleration.
Yes. So you take delta t small, and what will appear is that this relation between the change of position and the change of acceleration will just be v cross omega. So it's very simple. What you have to do is just to add to the linear part of the acceleration v cross omega, and that will be your linear acceleration. So here I'm trying to state that globally that's the way we are representing, and there is a little bit of mathematical magic inside. If you want to go in the mathematical magic, you have to read Featherstone or other books like that. Just to really have in mind that what you are manipulating is not trivial. So when you get numbers, you have to think a little bit how to use these numbers. Okay, that's too much for today. Let's keep it. Well, then we will have inertias. An inertia, so I denoted by the y later. So an inertia will be, for the linear part, a mass, and for the angular part, a 3D matrix, a positive 3D matrix. At the end, we will represent an inertia by a 6D matrix when it is expressed at the center of mass of the body. Then the matrix has this shape. If we express it otherwhere, it will have a different shape. And what is important is to understand that y is something that is changing forces into acceleration. Sorry, the opposite. So it's a map that is coming from forces to acceleration. So I'm missing something. Missing the fact that when we have the representation of two objects like that, so here it will be velocities, we need to be able to convert them. So you remember that if I have a point in A and I want to convert it as a point, maybe a point in B, that I want to convert as a point in A, I'm applying this transformation vector, transformation matrix. I can do the same for velocity. In that case, the transformation that I will apply, we call it an action matrix. It would have a shape like that. So this action matrix will change a velocity in frame B into a velocity in frame A. Why it is like that, it's not very important. It's just important to remember that in this map, which is a 6-6 map, there is rotations, translation as a cross operation. Then we need to introduce the forces. So forces will also be 6D objects. They are introduced so that we can combine with a scalar product, a force with a velocity, and that would be a power. Power is the result of a force when the system is moving in the direction of the system. So clearly the power is a scalar quantity, so it's not represented in a coordinate system. So this equality should hold. You compute the power in frame A or the power in frame B, it should be the same. And the consequence of that is that then you can get the force with a similar relation as above. Here we are. Okay, so this displacement, the M matrix, will be used to displace points, to displace velocities, and to displace forces.
But is it the same matrix or not?
Nearly the same. See, here we have R cross product R0 R, and here we have R0 cross product R R. So it's a little bit the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
And so what we can say is phi is a dual of nu, and then the action in the nu space is acting this kind of reverse in the phi space because it's a dual. And what you can see here is that on the angular part of the velocity you have just a change of coordinate, while on the linear part you have an action with the lever arm, and it's just the same with the forces. So the linear forces not change, while the torque is changed with the lever arm. So that's matching physics, right? On the physics, you are applying the lever arm on the linear velocity, but on the angular forces. So that's what it is saying here.
Sorry, could you repeat what's the name of the matrix? So basically the matrix is transforming a velocity twist, or how you call spatial...
Yeah, twist is fine as well. Yeah. Spatial velocity.
Body frame to absolute world frame.
Yeah, to one frame to another.
And what did you call that matrix?
The action matrix.
Okay.
It's the way that SC3 element is acting on the space of velocity or on the space of forces.
You call it the action matrix, the first one, the second one, or both?
Yeah, so it's the action on the velocity space and the action on the force space. We are naming the same. I think that's mathematically sound. And I often use the X symbol for the velocity in the action in the forces, and it would be the inverse of the transpose or the transpose of the inverse that we note AXB minus T. Okay?
So it's the...
Yeah, they're linked to that.
And the Physistomy is not denoting it with a star to say it's a dual.
Yeah, the first one is the adjoint. And the
Yeah.
second one, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry, I know this part is not nice. And we tried to make the interface inside Pinocchio so that it is as clear as possible how to get rid of that and just be a user. But we will use that in particular for the DDP class to make to differentiate stuff, and we need at least a little bit of understanding that there is something there. Maybe go deep inside is not necessary, but at least be aware of what are the representations and how to use that. What's the time? That's 1 hour and a half, so we should make a break here. Okay? So for the break, I would like to have everybody having the VirtualBox running, so that after the class we will stop doing this fancy mathematics, and I will really let you go inside. On my side, we'll just be there for explaining you some part of the implementation. So if you don't have the application running, tell me, I want to help you during the break.
The password,
I am a robot.
I am a robot.
Without spaces.